involvement in the bridge program came out in my involvement with the U.S. Lacrosse Association, as well as the Philadelphia Lacrosse Association. And I was chosen for the Diversity Inclusion Committee, and they were trying to find ways to increase the numbers of African American girls and boys, playing the game of lacrosse. We had coaches who looked like them and who came through the system, because the United States Lacrosse Association had trainings, and some of our basketball coaches from the Philadelphia area, became trained in lacrosse. And Janice Henderson, who's a teacher in Philadelphia, I was at this particular one. She was actually the leader. She was the person who was the main organizer. And so not only were we exposing the young girls of color to lacrosse, but we were also training the next generation of coaches. And the young people from suburban school, Lansdowne Alden, they came and so gave their support. And we also had some parents who were, from, it's a look and see for them, because some of them had never seen the game of lacrosse, and others were very involved in the game of lacrosse. So I was, in my legacy, that's part of my legacy. I was so glad to see that we were able to pull it off. We were trying to bridge a gap between girls of color and the girls who could afford to pay or had those opportunities. So we were giving, our kids a chance to participate. The Black Men's Sport Foundation is an organization that was started, shortly after I got to Temple, and we wanted to give opportunities for African American. We expanded now to girls of color in all aspects from sport, from the playing field to the boardroom, and basically concentrating on non-traditional sports like tennis and golf and fencing and lacrosse and field hockey, sports that we're ordinarily not exposed to. And when I got to Temple, Carol Oglesby came about 2 years after I got there. She was a activist, a feminist, and she had been created the AIW, Association of Intercollegiate Athletics for Women, and Kathy Rush, my former classmate, was doing a lot of things at Immaculata. Immaculata was the big thing in this area. And Carol would take us to all these meetings. We'd go to Kathy Rush's stuff. Nikki Frank and myself. Nikki Frank was a student. Alpha Alexander was a grad student under Carol Oglesby. And we would go to these seminars and never see anybody look like us. One day I said to Carol Oglesby, we've got to change this. Why don't we have our own seminars but invite some people of color? So she thought it was a good idea. So one of my colleague at Temple, who we had offices next door, he ran the extension program. So that was our first. Actually, Black Men's Sport Foundation program was an extension program. We invited, the local coaches and a lot of the female coaches, especially the African American coaches, in the area, and we invited folks at Temple, not at Lincoln and Cheney, and then we also got at Howard University, and then some of the highlight speakers like Nell Jackson was. Invited to be our keynotes. So that started some of our programs. And Alpha Alexander went on to become the teaching to be an administrator at the YWCA. And she got exposed to some of the 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 marketing people and the shoe companies and whatever. So that actually was our first exposure to getting funding. In 1993, we become incorporated and become an official 501c. And Linda Green, who was a law professor at Temple, and our kids were in the same daycare. So she was from California and a track person. So she introduced the foundation, me, to Cherise Lilly, who was at Ballard Spahr, the law firm Ballard Spahr. So we incorporated Ballard Spahr because we had gotten a grant from the Athletic Footwear Association through the efforts of Dr. Alexander. And the intent was to create a video to show the history of African American women in sport. Robin Roberts agreed to. She was at ESPN. She was just starting out in her career, and she agreed to do the narration of the video. And that was a great piece, a 25-minute piece. I mean, if you get a chance, watch it.
What was it called again?
Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace. And we went to New York. A young man named Gary Axelbank was the producer. And our objective was to show African American women doing their craft. Because if you look at if you go back and look at footage, you only see a few types of footage of Wilma Rudolph, because there's not much more. Back in the day, that you didn't see people, especially African American women or women, period, doing their craft, which is running or playing lacrosse or whatever. If that didn't exist. So we did this video, actually showed women doing their craft, and whether they're athletic directors or or whether they're working with the Olympic Committee. So it was a great piece. So we were pioneers. I mean, we were pioneers and I think making sure that not only local folks knew about black women in sport, but on a national level. And folks knew that there were people like themselves who were involved in lacrosse. There were people like themselves who were involved in field hockey and soccer and whatever. So it was an avenue where we helped the NCAA because, we were very significant in making sure that the NYSP was one of our, ways that we got involved. I don't know if your National Youth Sports Program. And that started out in the 70s because of the rioting in the streets, and that was a compromise. And because of our efforts, I mean, we were able to, I think, bring another dimension to NYSP because we had a lot of female athletic directors, historically black schools. We had a lot of coaches from historically black schools and students. Like Cheney had a program in the area. Lincoln had a program. Temple, Drexel, Penn, and we got a chance to know people from all over the country, and we were able to raise the level not only of participants, but coaches and administrators. And again, that program is no longer in existence, but I think that was probably one of the greatest models, and we still can follow that model if we really want success.